All right, let's talk about memory. We lean on it for pretty much everything, every single day, right? But what if I told you that its most basic job isn't at all what you think it is? That we've all kind of misunderstood what it's for? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the surprising truth about your memory.
You know the feeling. We've all been there. You've left the house, you're halfway to wherever you're going, and then, bam, that little jolt of panic hits you. Did I turn off the stove? Did I lock the front door? And you start digging through your brain, searching for that little mental picture of you doing it.
And then you find it. You can almost feel the click of the knob. Your memory reports back, loud and clear. Yep, you're good. And you trust it. Of course you do. But what is that feeling of remembering? What is memory actually doing in that moment to give you that peace of mind? That's the real mystery we're going to dig into.
So our first big question is all about what memory's role really is. Most of us have this one idea in our heads about what it does, and, well, it turns out that idea is just plain wrong.
The popular idea, the one we all kind of grow up with, is that memory is like a video camera in our head. You see something, the camera rolls, and later on you just hit the play button to watch the replay. But philosophers who study this stuff, epistemologists, they say, nope, that's not it at all.
So instead, they talk about this thing called the causal chain. The idea is actually pretty simple. For a belief about something in the past to be a real, genuine memory, it has to be connected to the original event by an unbroken chain. If that chain gets snapped anywhere along the way, whatever you're left with, it isn't a memory anymore. Here's what that perfect, unbroken chain looks like. First, step 1, perception. You actually see your friend at a coffee shop. Step 2, retention. Your brain holds on to that information. It stores it away. And then, step 3, recall. Later on, you bring that info back to mind. Perception, retention, recall. As long as that link is solid, you've got a true memory.
But what happens if that chain breaks? Okay, so let's say you see the event, but then you totally forget about it. It's just gone. Later, a friend says, hey, remember when we saw that thing? And they tell you the whole story. Now, you might believe it happened, but that belief didn't come from your memory. The chain was broken. It actually came from your friend's testimony. It's a whole different source.
This whole idea leads to a much, much better way to think about memory. It's not a camera operator running around in your skull. A better metaphor? It's a librarian.
And this right here is the absolute key. Think of things like your senses, perception, or your ability to think, reason, as the authors. They're the creative ones. They write new books, they generate new beliefs about the world. But memory? Memory is the librarian. The librarian doesn't write anything new. Its only job is to take the books that the authors wrote, put them on the shelf, and keep them safe so you can check them out later. It preserves. It doesn't create.
So the bottom line is this. Your memory is a storehouse, not a factory. It can't just cook up a new belief out of nothing. It can only ever hand you back something that you originally got from somewhere else, from what you saw, what somebody told you, or what you figured out for yourself.
Okay, this is where things get really, really interesting. Because if memory just stores things, how can we ever trust it? Well, this leads to this bizarre paradox where you can be totally right to believe something that is in fact totally wrong.
Just let that sink in for a second. Can you be justified? Can you be totally rational in believing something that is factually incorrect? When it comes to the philosophy of memory, the answer is a big, flashing yes. And here's why. There's this principle that says, basically, if you have a clear and confident memory of something, that belief is justified on the face of it. Or, as they say in philosophy, it's prima facie justified. It means it's good to go, right off the bat, without needing a bunch of other evidence. What that means for you and me is that you don't have to prove your memory is working every single time you use it. It's like your eyesight. You don't have to prove your eyes work every time you look at something. Memory gets a kind of free pass. It's treated as a basic, foundational source for having a good reason to believe things. But, and this is a huge but, having a good reason isn't the same as being right.
Let's use a classic example to see how this works. Imagine you go to a party and you have this great, memorable conversation with a guy named Alex. The next day, you have a really vivid memory of meeting Alex.
But here comes the plot twist. You didn't meet Alex. You actually met his identical twin brother, Pat. And you had no clue that Pat even existed. So your belief, I met Alex, is straight up false.
So let's break this down. Is your belief, I met Alex, justified? Yes, absolutely. Based on your crystal clear memory, you have every reason in the world to think that's who you met. But is it knowledge?
Nope, not a chance. Because for something to count as knowledge, it has to be true. And your belief? Well, it's false. This is a perfect example of a justified false belief.
So this justification that our memory gives us is powerful, for sure. But it's not some kind of superpower. It's not invincible, and it can be taken away.
And this brings us to a really cool concept called defeasibility. It's a fancy word, but all it means is that the justification your memory gives you can be defeated or, canceled out if you run into new, stronger evidence that proves it wrong.
So let's go back to our party scenario. The next day, your friend comes up and shows you a photo and says, "Hey, that wasn't Alex, that was his identical twin, Pat." At that exact moment, poof, your original justification is defeated. This new evidence is stronger than your memory, so it would no longer be rational for you to keep believing you met Alex.
All right, so we've talked about librarians and twins and justified mistakes, and you might be thinking this is all just a fun philosophical puzzle, but it's not. This distinction between memory being a preserver, not a creator, is actually the bedrock of our ability to think at all.
I mean, just think about it for a second. What would happen if we couldn't just trust our memory as a starting point? If every single time we remembered something, we had to go find some other outside proof that the memory was right?
Everything would just grind to a halt. You couldn't solve a math problem because you'd have to reprove step 1 before you could move on to step 2. You couldn't follow the plot of a movie. You couldn't learn from your past mistakes. We'd basically be trapped in the immediate present, unable to connect any two thoughts across time. Our entire ability to reason is built on this fragile, breakable trust we place in our internal librarian. And that leaves us with one last, kind of spooky question to chew on. Given that our minds are full of beliefs built on this foundation of memory, a foundation that gives us good reason to believe things, but no guarantee that they're true, what beliefs are you holding on to right now that feel totally right, that are perfectly justified by your memory, but are, in reality, completely and utterly wrong?